Yo YouTube! This is a video for Thursday the 14th of December, which was yesterday. It was the end of my Scottish Odyssey yesterday. And at the end of today's video I will give you the stats for yesterday, for Thursday. And also I'll give you a summary of the 3 days I was in Scotland in total as a separate entity, and then you can sort of see how the whole thing went. It was a bit of an experiment, and I'll tell you what I thought about it at the end. So yesterday I woke up in Falkirk, having done a second night of tramping. It was a bit colder that night. I was reasonably warm. I was just a bit too cold. No, I wouldn't say that. I wasn't too cold. I felt the cold on the outside, but I slept okay. And I woke up around about 4 o'clock-ish, and then I just dozed for the rest of the morning, as it were, until I woke up properly. So I didn't really get a great night's sleep. Maybe it was to do with the temperature, actually thinking about it. Maybe it was a little bit colder than I was used to. So I'm not sure. I was in a good place. I was in a car park by a park in Falkirk, a small car park. It was pretty quiet. The main road was about 50 metres from me, but it wasn't too busy. It was quiet, and I think it must have been the temperature that woke me up, I'm guessing, in hindsight. And then I sort of dozed until I felt like I could open my eyes. And by the time I opened my eyes, it was about 9 o'clock. So I'd kind of slept in later than I thought I was going to. But I think I needed the rest. I think that was the main thing. My body needed the rest. And so I bid on a job and got myself ready quickly and had a look around at what jobs there were, and trying to get a job basically. So from about 9, I would say, I was looking on the system, and was there anything else? Just trying to think what I was doing. I popped to the local Morrison's and used the toilet, and I got some fuel, filled up the fuel. While I was working for a job, then I kind of was debating whether to go. I was basically between Glasgow and Edinburgh, and there was some jobs going back up north, which I just ignored. Most of the jobs were coming out of Glasgow that morning. There was very few coming out of Edinburgh, and I was debating what to do by about sort of 11. I had not got a job, so I'd done all my bits and pieces, got ready. I'd been looking for jobs since 9, so probably about an hour or so just sitting around waiting. And I was thinking about, should I start to make a move somewhere? And I was going to start to drive towards either Glasgow or Edinburgh. I was really debating which way to go. So from my point of view, this is how I look at it. Edinburgh has less jobs, and yesterday, on the day I'm talking about, it actually had slightly more active drivers, and Glasgow had less active drivers and more jobs. So it seemed to me that it made a bit more sense to head towards Glasgow. So I was going to do that, and then I got a call back about one of the bids I put on, and it was a call from a pickup from Glasgow going to Dumfries. So basically going southwards. It was a long wheelbase job, and I put a bid on of 9. Well, I was going to put, it was 77 miles, and I was going to put a bid on for £100, but I thought I'll put £95, and it makes it seem a little bit cheaper, better value for money. So £95 for that job, and I thought it's a decent job. It gets me started. It gets me heading south. And then once I was to put the bid on, I looked at the shipper. I won't name them, but they had quite a lot of negative feedback. So sort of in margin of sort of 10 or 12, which is quite high really, in the last 90 days. It might be more than that, it might be 15. But enough that I thought, oh, this is dodgy. And I looked at their payment terms, it's 45 days from end of month, which I thought is pretty bad as well. So I was sort of thinking, oh, I don't really want to take the risk when this would be. So, but there wasn't any other choice, there wasn't any other jobs coming up that I could sort of win. Anyway, they called me, and I did say to her, what's the reason for your negative feedback recently? And I think she was surprised by the question. And I got what I thought was quite a defensive answer, along the lines of, we had a system problem a couple of months ago, and that led to a lot of errors with the payments. And I wasn't going to say anything else, I just wanted to see what they would say if I asked that question. And I asked her her name, I wrote it down, and I said, okay, fair enough, on this occasion I'll take a risk and I'll take the job. Because I just wanted to get moving, to be honest, and that's the, I'd rather take a risk with a job in hand than say, oh, I'm not going to do it and then not maybe get another job for another hour or so. So it is a risk, I appreciate that, but I took at face value, having asked her my question, that it was, she said to me that the last payment run had gone through okay, so I had to take at face value what she said on this occasion, just trust that she's telling me the truth. And time will tell, won't it? So I took the job, and I then drove over to Glasgow, and from where I was it was 35 minutes drive. It was 26 effectively dead miles to get to Glasgow, and I arrived. So I got the job at 11:45, and I arrived on site for the pickup at 12:25. The load. Also, I was going to. They wanted a long wheel shop, which is fine. I asked her what the load was, and she said it was rails, but no other detail. And when I saw the name of the company, I have done their work before. It's an electrical supplier, and they often have quite long bits of work, long items. And I was thinking, oh, will I actually be able to fit this on my van? My van will fit 3.4 metres lengthwise, but if you put it at an angle, it'll easily fit 3.6 metres, which tends to be enough for most loads, that kind of large, long wheelbase loads. I did think on the way up, well, if it's 4 metre like rail, then what I could do is perhaps have the doors open, put a bungee cord to keep them sort of tight against the item, and then put a spare high vis on the back. I've seen that a few times on the back of the load. So I thought I could get around it if I had to. So I had that bit of a concern going to the pickup point. But other than that, I was on the move and quite happy. So I was loaded. So in the end, I got there, and it was the stuff was 3 metres, which is fine for my van. So I could get on. There's a pallet of stuff and some other 3 metre long rails. So I was loaded up by 12:50 and made my way down to Dumfries. Now, I've said before, I'm a natural optimist. So my view of getting to Dumfries was, I'll probably be the only driver there. So any work that comes out, I've got a good chance of winning it. And that's what I went down with that attitude. So I got to the drop-off location at 2:30. Was offloaded by 2:45. I drove outside the yard and parked up on the road for the industrial estate and looked for work. And by the time I did that, there was one other driver in Dumfries who was sort of available with constraints, and then there's me. And I quite quickly lost confidence in my plan about getting a load, because there was nothing coming out anywhere near Dumfries. I was probably there for about 10 minutes thinking, oh god, what am I going to do now? time is moving on. Should I just head south, head towards Preston, or even head towards the northeast? So that from where I was, if I went directly east 2 hours, I get to Newcastle, or I could head sort of half an hour onto the M6 and down towards Preston and then the northwest. I had a couple of choices, and the time, as I said, was about 3. Well, it could take us 3 o'clock by the time I could make the decision. I was thinking, I've got little chance now of getting somewhere where there's work from where I am. It's 2 hours away, unless I make a decision quite quickly. So I was kind of losing confidence about staying where I was. I looked at, there was a few Scottish jobs. I used my Chromebook to look at jobs that were over 50 miles away. And there was jobs coming out of Prestwick Airport and Glasgow, and I thought, well, I don't want to go all the way back to Glasgow just to pick up a load to go down south. That seems demoralising. It was about an hour and a half, about 70 odd miles to Glasgow. Anyway, a job came up from Stranraer, and I thought, well, I don't know where that is. I looked at the map, and I realised it was east of where I was. So I thought, oh, that's interesting, east of where I am. It was going from Stranraer to Gretna, and I didn't look at where Gretna was. I knew Gretna was on the border between Scotland and England. I didn't know how far, and it's on the M6, I didn't know how far to Dumfries it was. So when I looked at the job, I thought, I had a look at the map, it's about 70 odd miles to get to Stranraer, but I'm probably the only one that's going to be able to do that. So it was 97 miles loaded, so I thought, I'll put a bit on that. I put a bit of 135, and I can't remember how I worked it out. It's sort of £1 a mile, £100. Oh yes, I do remember. It was £100 for the loaded miles, split to £1 a mile, and £35, which is like half of £1 a mile for the dead miles, 70 miles. So 70 miles was dead. I did half of that being £1 a mile, so 50p a mile, £35. Added it on to make 135. I thought that was okay as a bid, and then I realised, oh well, this is an hour and a half away, and it's 70 miles away, exactly the same distance away that Glasgow is, and I don't want to go to Glasgow. So what's the difference? And it was just a psychological difference. Literally going from where I was in Dumfries to Stranraer and back to Gretna was effectively me being paid money to not move any further south. I was obviously going to drive some distance and do some work, but I wasn't going to get any further south. Going up to Glasgow seemed like I was going backwards on myself. It doesn't make any sense logically, but just psychologically, I don't like going back on myself that far. You know, the idea of going back into Scotland and to come all the way back down again just seems demoralising. It doesn't make logical sense, I know. So anyway, I put a bid on, and then I thought, that's a long way to go for 10 miles, and it's going to be a good 3 hours to get there and back, and then it's going to be sort of 7 o'clock, and I'm going to get home. Oh yes, sorry, I forgot to mention something. In the morning, I did get a job for the following morning, which was from Sleaford to Birmingham for Friday morning. And I put on there, it was a small van job, put on a speculative bid quite high, and I thought, oh, forget that, that'd be good, and that'll force me to get home tonight. And I quite quickly got the job. So I knew yesterday I had to get home yesterday night for a job for this morning. So, bearing that in mind, I thought I'll be back. So basically I cancelled the job. I cancelled my job to Stranraer, and I thought I'll just head south and sort of head towards, I don't know, northwest maybe. No, I was going to do the quickest route home. So M6, A66, and then A1M is the route I take home. So it's going to take me sort of across the Pennines towards, at the best case scenario, towards Leeds, but late on in the day. Anyway, I got a phone call from the shipper saying you put a job on, a bid on a job from Stranraer to Gretna, and I said, oh, I'm sorry, I've just cancelled that. And then he said, oh, in such a way that I felt so guilty. And I thought, oh, I can't let him down. It's like I've sort of put his hopes up, and now I'm going to let him down. So I thought, well, I better take it up, and I thought, well, I can't do it just for the 135, it doesn't feel right. So I said to him, I had a quick look in the moment. So in my head, sorry, I'm rushing this. In my head, I had a thought. I would do this job for £1 a mile loaded and £1 a mile getting there. So £170. but I just felt that asking for that was too much. So I kind of, in the moment, just thought, what can I ask for that's more than what I've put on before, but it's going to feel like a fair amount? So I said to him, we do it for 150. And he said straight away, yes, he would. So I agreed to do it for 150. And as I was then driving towards Stranraer, thinking, have I made a mistake? I was thinking, in the best case scenario, I'd have done this for 170. And I'll do it for 150, which is only £20 less. So I'm losing out at most £20 from what I could have perhaps hoped to have got in the best case scenario. So it wasn't the end of the world. And I realised that it's going to extend my day to be quite a long day, but I felt that I couldn't let him down, and I'd sort of committed to it, and I was getting decent money for it. And so in the end, I kind of resolved to myself, it was okay, I was happy with it. And once I'd done that, I was driving along these great Scottish roads towards the east coast of Scotland. There was the sea to my left, and the sun was setting, and all was well with the world. So, just to summarise, because I've written this down, my dead miles to cut that job was 70. It was 90 minutes driving. The job itself was 97 miles. I got £150 for it, 150. I won the job at 3:20, and I arrived on site at 5:10. I was loaded by 5, and then I got back to Gretna and was offloaded by 7:15. At this point, I thought it was about 5 hours from home. I put a sat nav in, and it was only 4 hours from Gretna to my home, which was quite a good surprise. So 7:15 would have got me home before midnight. But I did think I felt quite good in terms of my tiredness levels. So I was looking for other work on the way down, and I was very hungry at this point. So I found a McDonald's, which was sort of on the next junction down the M6. Got a McDonald's meal and looked for work. And there was nothing really. There was one job going from Barnsley to Peterborough that would have been amazing for me, but I didn't have a big enough van. It was I think it was it's a company. I think it's in every depot pickup. I'm not sure, but it requires a 4-metre van, and I haven't got that. And so I couldn't get that job. There was nothing else really. There's a couple of jobs coming out of Newcastle. Well, there's one job coming out of Newcastle, I think. Going. Oh yeah, there was one job. Sorry, going from Consett, just near sort of Durham way, and it was going to Birkenhead. And I was so tempted to do that job, because I thought, I'm going to be there in time. It's for later on in the evening. It was something like an 8:30 pickup, and I was going to get there by about 8:15. So to do it, but then I thought, you're going to get to Birkenhead, which is actually 3.5 hours away from home, having done a good 3 hours extra work. I would be so tired. So I did, on this occasion, choose going home over extra work. I think it was a sensible thing to do. So I just headed back towards my original route, which is A66, A1M. I was looking for jobs. One job did come up on the way down. I was about half an hour from Doncaster, and a job came up from Doncaster going to Bedford. And it was 120 miles for a small van job. And this would have been a pickup at something like... I was going to be there for about 8:30, I reckon. No, yeah, about 8:30. Maybe 9 o'clock, I can't remember. So, and I put a bid on it, and I bid on it £150, 150, because I thought I would do it for that money. I'm unlikely to get it, but I'll end up with a very long day then. So in the end it got sold. I didn't get the job, so I just went straight home, and I ended up at home. I arrived on the drive at 12:25, and I was in bed by 12:40. I'll tell you about sort of today, what I'm doing today in today's video, but I'll give you my stats now for yesterday, and I will give you also, after I've done my stats for the day, I said I'm going to give you, I'll talk about my Scottish adventure and what I learned, maybe a bit about what I learned from it. So for yesterday, I worked for 14 hours 25 minutes, say 14 and a half hours. I drove for 503 miles, 503. My fuel price was 16.23 pence per mile, which means that I spent £81.63 on fuel. My gross earnings yesterday from 2 CX jobs was £245. That was the £95 that I got going from Glasgow to Dumfries, and the £150 I got for going from Stranraer to Gretna. So take off fuel from that, and I earned £163 after fuel yesterday, and I was home. So what I'll do now is, I'm just going to give you some summary stats for my 3 days in Scotland. Now, I did a bit of an experiment, which was about going to Scotland. I got good money to go to Scotland on the Tuesday morning. And then, rather than trying to come just straight back home, I decided to allow myself the option of a couple of nights tramping if I needed it, and try and work my way back more slowly. And this is what was the result of that. So in those 3 days, I drove a total of 1,247 miles. That's from 4 o'clock in the morning on the Tuesday when I went from home to Huntingdon to just gone midnight on Thursday. And that's an average per day of the 3 days of 416 miles a day on average. For the 3 days, I worked a total of 36 and a half hours, which is an average per day of 12 hours 10 minutes. In total, I earned £975, 975, from 5 CX jobs, and that's an average per day gross of £325, 325. My total fuel costs for the 3 days was £202.38, 202, which is an average per day of basically £67.50. £67.50. And therefore, if you take off fuel from my gross earnings, I earned a total of the 3 days for 5 6 jobs of £773, 773. And that averages each day to £258 after fuel, 258. So I'm actually quite pleased with that. I've got my target. I achieved my target that I try and achieve after fuel of £250. So, a couple of lessons that I learnt, which I want to try and remember for myself at least, that might allow me to work in Scotland. And the caveat here is, this is just one. I've been to Scotland about 10 times in total, so each time I go up it's a lesson, but I don't live in Scotland, I don't work in Scotland a lot. You know, who knows, it might have been a fluke what happened those few days. It might have been, I could have done it differently, But what I learned from that experience was the following things. Number one, it really helped that I had a decent paying job going up. It was a long wheelbase job that I had going up to Scotland, which is good use of my van, and it was for £330. It was only about £1 a mile. It's not great pence per mile, but because it's a long way, it's decent money. So that's a good start. The second thing is that I learned was that also it's a very early start. So I started at 5 o'clock pick up, left the site at 5:30. So that meant I was in Glasgow and ready to get another job by midday, which is a really good time to be able to do another long distance job. And they were around. So early start if you can, big paying job at the start if you can. I won't do a low price paying job in Scotland. It just wouldn't be worth it. Next thing is I took a reasonably good paying job on the same day going further up north into Scotland, because that's going to be unpopular for anyone coming from England. But very few people in England are going further on into Scotland just to work in Scotland. So that worked well the first day. I ended up in Inverness. Next thing I learnt was, although there wasn't much work coming out in the morning, there was work coming out later on in the day around the Inverness area. It wasn't a lot, it might have been, I think I did 3 jobs that I could have done, but because midday there wasn't a lot of drivers around, on that particular day at least, maybe another day it'd be different, I was able to get a decent paying job going down. And the job I got was actually a large wheelbase job for £1 a mile out of Inverness. So being able to wait for a decent paying job is the key. What was the key this time? Trying to rush out of Inverness first thing in the morning to get a job out isn't going to happen, and I think that's what everyone's trying to do. So because I could wait till about, I got the job about 11:30 in the end, or 11 o'clock, 11:30 left the site. So wait until about midday to get your job from Inverness, or maybe Aberdeen or wherever it is, or Oban. So I would sort of give myself the chance to have a second night's tramping in that case. And that took me down to Falkirk, which was a great area to find work. And this is where things could have been different. I could have gone minimum price jobs within Glasgow. Actually, to be fair, what I learned this time was Glasgow was probably a better place to go than Edinburgh. So possibly I could have gone from Falkirk in the afternoon, gone straight to Glasgow and hung around there, because I would have been there in the afternoon, about 3 o'clock, and I might be able to get something from there then, a bit closer. It might not have worked, but I think next time, if I do the same sort of thing, I might head towards Glasgow and tramp there for the second night. And then the other thing that I would say is, I suppose it's if I get a job going down to England, like the Maidenhead job, the Dudley job, going from Aberdeen and Edinburgh and stuff, you've got to go really cheap. I was getting 75p a mile, and I wasn't getting a sniff. So I'm thinking I might have to start at 70p, go to 60p. I'm sure there are people here who say you have to go 50p a mile, but I'd find it hard to do that. If it was the right time, I might go down to 50p, but I'd rather try and avoid that if I could. But I think that last job getting out, but in my case what I did was I basically did 2 more jobs in Scotland. I went down from Glasgow to Dumfries to Stranraer to Gretna. All of that was in Scotland, and that was enough money to pay for my dead miles home. So that worked for me that time. Dead miles wise, I suppose I could work it out, couldn't I? So I did about 200 dead miles to home, roughly 70 dead miles from Stranraer. I did about 26 dead miles, so 300 miles. So probably about 310 dead miles in total on the whole trip. Roughly that. So I think that that's roughly what I did, about 310, 320 dead miles for is okay. Bear in mind, I got my target at the end of it. Right, I'll leave that with you. Thank you very much for listening to my video. The light on my microphone has gone off, so I have to listen to this video, and if it might not be great sound, but I don't want to do it all again, to be honest. So I hope if you are one of those great shippers and drivers out there that are professional, fair, polite, you know, nice, just generally nice people, that you're being successful however you want to be. And I'll see you probably tonight with my video for today. I've got a plan for today. I'll let you know how it goes later on tonight. Cheers!